13 British royal powers you didn't know the monarchy still has. Did you know that the monarchy still has several royal powers? Today's video will bring to light 13 such powers. You will be shocked to hear just how much power is wielded by the British monarchy. So without further wait, let's get started. Number 1. Appoint the Prime Minister. While most people are familiar with the fanfare that surrounds the British monarch's ceremonial role, they are often not aware of the perks and powers that come with it. One glaring example of this power is the ability to appoint any Prime Minister. The Prime Minister of the UK takes office after attending the British monarch in a private audience, and after kissing hands. The appointment is made official. While usually this is the leader of a party or coalition that holds the majority in the House of Commons, this is only done in accordance with unwritten conventions. In theory, anyone could be appointed as the head of state by the monarch, regardless of the outcome of any elections. Sounds very authoritarian, doesn't it? Number 2. Dismiss the Prime Minister. Just as he appoints the Prime Minister in principle, the monarch also has the power to dismiss any Prime Minister. This hasn't actually happened since 1834, when William IV dismissed Lord Melbourne. Since then, the Prime Ministers have only left after offering their resignation. They are expected to offer this to the monarch once they lose the majority in the House of Commons. So it seems the existence of British democracy relies entirely on the goodwill of the monarch. Number 3. Call an election. While this is unlikely to be used, the monarch also has the power to call an election. The king or queen can dissolve the parliament and force a general election on the public. However, it's important to know that there is a condition to this. According to the Dissolution and Calling of Parliament Act 2022, this power can be exercised at the request of the Prime Minister of the day. So in reality, it's the Prime Minister who chooses when to exercise this power. But does he really? As we already know, the monarch can just dismiss him and put someone else in his place. Number 4. Monarchs' approval for any bill passed. Before any new bill passed by the legislative houses is turned into law, the monarch's approval is formally required. This is called the royal assent. And in principle, the monarch can simply refuse to pass any law. However, since 1708, assent has always been given by the monarch. It's important to note that the monarchy can get access to the bill before it even makes it to the parliament. They can require changes to be made to the bill in case it affects them in any way. One such example is when in 1968, the palace negotiated some controversial clauses in the Race Relations Act. This would exempt the Queen and her household from laws preventing race discrimination. So we know from history that there have been times when the monarchy has abused their power for their own benefit. Number 5. Ability to declare war and peace. If all that you read so far was concerning, it gets worse. The royal prerogative also allows the monarch to declare war without even having to consult the parliament. This means that if he felt like it, King Charles could just announce an invasion tomorrow and no one in Britain could stop him. The monarch also has the power to make peace, alliances, and treaties unilaterally. Number 6. No prosecution under civil or criminal law. We all hear about how politicians should be more accountable, but when it comes to the British monarchy, there is no such thing. The monarch essentially enjoys sovereign immunity and is above the law. This means he can't be arrested or be subject of civil or criminal proceedings. The implications of this power are crazy to think about, as the monarch can essentially do anything and no one will hold him responsible for it. Fortunately for people in Britain, Queen Elizabeth was known for abiding by the law. That only goes as far as her public life though, since she was required to disclose anything private. More on that later in the video. Number 7. Evading jury duty. This perk isn't just for the monarch, but extends to other members of the royal family. King Charles and members of his immediate family do not have to take part in jury duty. For normal citizens, this would result in a fine of up to £1,000 or around $1,200. Initially, this exemption applied to all members of the royal family, but members of parliament persuaded the government in 2003 to limit it to only immediate family members of Queen Elizabeth, the monarch at the time. Number 8. No passport. Now, this one may seem rather odd, but it's another perk that shows the difference between an ordinary citizen and the monarch. While the average citizen has to prove his identity, that isn't the case for the monarch. Queen Elizabeth didn't have to use a passport at all while traveling. This is also likely the case for King Charles. Number 9. No driver's license required. This is one of those interesting things that you wish you knew before. Queen Elizabeth trained as a driver and mechanic for the Women's Auxiliary Territorial Service during World War II. She was known for her love of driving and luxury cars, and why wouldn't she? She never had to take a driver's test. In fact, she didn't even need a number plate on her car. This is because all driver's licenses in the UK are issued in the monarch's name. Number 10. No inheritance tax. With great power comes no responsibility. This is one of those unfair powers that will definitely not be appreciated by British taxpayers. The monarchy does not have to pay the inheritance tax, even on an estate valued at tens of millions of pounds. While the monarchy is technically exempt from taxes, Queen Elizabeth went out of her way to make voluntary payments on some of her income and assets. Number 11. Automatic legal custody of all descendants. This is another overreaching power that will come as a shock. While the average grandparent has to go through the courts in order to get custody of their grandchildren, this isn't the case for the monarchy. The king has automatic custody of his descendants and minor grandchildren. What this means today is that King Charles has custody of Prince William and Kate Middleton's 3 children. It would be hard to imagine that the king would ever take the grandchildren away from their own parents. However, on paper, the 300-year-old law still exists. Number 12. Exemption from Freedom of Information Act. This rule gives the royal family freedom to exercise a lot more privacy over their day-to-day duties and finances. When the royal family releases its annual financial report, the UK public has no access to the details on their spending. This is because the royal family is not considered a public authority within the meaning of the FOI Acts, making them exempt from their provisions. A lot of wealthy people today wish they could have this much privacy and do not have to disclose anything about their finances. Number 13. Ability to arrest anyone and seize their property. Finally, we end this video with a very absurd power that we can all agree shouldn't exist. As the people of Britain are technically not citizens but subjects of the monarch could have any of them arrested and even seize their property or land for the crown. The authoritarian power may call into question whether the monarchy has any place in the 21st century. Most people are not aware of many of these royal powers, as the British monarchy has mostly stayed out of politics in the past century. They have avoided any polarizing controversies, which has allowed them to stay in the good graces of the public. This also explains why they have survived for this long. That brings us to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe. What are your thoughts on the British monarchy still holding so much power? Stay tuned for more interesting videos that reveal all about the royal family.